Hi, everyone. Welcome to PeopleMetrics Live. Today, we have a special guest speaker joining us who's going to be discussing the topic of empowering credit unions through exceptional membership experience. So stay tuned.
So Therese, we've been working together now for a little over a year. It's been great working with you, and it's been a beautiful partnership. And it's something, and I'm really excited to be able to talk about, how to create experiences for your members that are memorable and that they exceed their expectations and et cetera. But before we get into that, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself? How did you get into the role of even being concerned about the customer experience? And just give us like a little history of your time within credit unions and sort of how you got here.
Yes, absolutely. So I've been working for credit unions for actually over 22 years. Thank you for asking that question, Sean. Now people are probably calculating how long. I graduated from college with a finance degree, and in all honesty, I knew my passion was to work for not necessarily a nonprofit, but a not-for-profit. And so, with my finance degree, I started with a credit union where I was there for 14 years. At that organization, I worked in various roles, including consumer lending, real estate, the call center, and the retail branch network. So pretty much a lot of different touch points and delivery channels, within a credit union. And then I saw an opportunity to move to California Credit Union back in 2015, actually. So I've been with California Credit Union for now over 8 years. So it's definitely hard to believe I've been working for credit unions for over 22 years. And my role right now is the Vice President, Regional Manager, and my duties include overseeing the retail network of the branches, from a member experience, from a sales, from a member-facing perspective, employee-facing perspective in the retail branch network.
That's great. That's great. So tell us about why member experience is important to you and California Credit Union. Like, what is it about customer experience that, that makes it a priority for your organization?
Oh gosh, where do I begin with that? So as a not-for-profit organization, we serve, our members, and we do everything that we can to make sure that, their experiences, it's no longer just, the member experience is a nice to have. It's basically a crucial factor in the way we do business. And that's not just in the financial services industry or a credit industry. That's in pretty much any business, aspect there is. We rely on service. Our customers rely on service. Our members, rely on the service and the choices they make, whether it be a financial institution or a car purchase or, a daily, it could be anything, but it really comes down to service. So, personally, people helping people has always been our philosophy, and our mission of serving our members and giving back to our members and our community has always been the heart of our mission. And it aligns with my personal values, my personal mission, which is why I've chosen to work for California Credit Union. And actually, in even one of your books that I read, Sean, we can say, and companies can say, we're member centric, we care about the customer service. But to work for an organization such as California Credit Union that truly lives, breathes every decision that's made, really does circle back to the service that we provide to the members and how we're adding value and having a positive impact on their lives.
Why don't we get into some specific kind of strategies and tactics you've used to create these great experiences for your members? And we have some slides that we've put together, and then we'll just walk through and discuss them. Therese, so we talked in our prep session, we were talking about how, customer service standards are important, right? But they alone don't guarantee a great member experience, right? Like, so they're almost the price of admission. Can you talk a little bit about how standards fit in and why you're looking to exceed the standards that are basically being set for your branches and delivering experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, as we talked about, there are certain standards, and we don't want to serve to our standard. It's not what our members expect. It's not what our members deserve. And I can even go to even give an example of, okay, are we greeting a member within 3 seconds? Are we smiling?
Mhm.
I mean, that's not a standard. That's an expectation. And as I mentioned in order to be successful as a credit union, and in the competitiveness of credit unions today and many under other industries as well, it's crucial, it's critical would be the words that I would actually use. And so a standard, even when we're looking at, surveys, okay, is getting a 7, okay, is that what's going to differentiate us and, set us apart? And that is why the delivering and prioritizing the member experience is absolutely key to success of credit unions.
Therese, talk a little bit about how you personalize the experience for your members and try to exceed their expectations. I thought that was very interesting because those are ways to really create like a memorable experience in any industry. But I was very interested to hear that that's sort of your plan and what you do at California Credit Union.
Yes, thank you, Sean. We use the word personalize, and truly, it's treating a member as a human.
Mhm.
We're humanizing the experience that they come in for. We are and we need to be committed to creating an experience that puts our members at the center of everything that we do. And in order to do that, we need to know what their needs are, who they are. They're family to us. And so it's really important to make sure that every encounter is truly an experience. And we know that it really doesn't end at that encounter or that experience. As I said, we consider members our family. So it truly is a journey, in their financial lives. And that's why it's so important. In fact, when I think of the word teller transaction, we use it pretty much on a daily basis. And, we think of the experience of what we're trying to provide. It's not a teller transaction that we're performing, it's an experience that we're providing for our members. There's so much that goes behind that as far as the job knowledge, how we're delivering that, how the member is receiving that. But we also are in a relationship-based industry. Again, not transactional based. That's been, a huge shift over the last several years with credit unions. And so we need to treat it that way and know what we're providing to our members and the service that we're providing to our members.
Therese, I wonder if you could share that example we were talking about around a member coming in for, say, a mortgage or a car loan, and then noticing kind of another opportunity to help them that may have exceeded their expectations, say on a credit card they might have. And I thought that was a really interesting example that you gave before.
Yeah, definitely. So, we train, and we know that in order to really make an impact on our members' lives, that we have to do exactly that. So they might come in. We are the experts. Our employees are the experts. We're consultants. We're acting in more of a consultant capability. And so they might come in thinking that, okay, I have $10,000 in credit card debt. It's a variable rate. It's at 19.99%. And, yay, we put them into a 7.99 fixed rate personal loan, and we accomplished what the member wanted to. But really, with a wide range of products and services and the knowledge of employees, we need to be able to give members options, whether that is, oh, you have a vehicle that you just paid off. And of course, that would probably come out in conversation or looking at a credit report. Or, oh, you purchased your home, 7 years ago, and you haven't had a home equity line of credit, you haven't refinanced it since. Let's see what your home value is. Our goal and our mission is always to be able to provide options to members. Obviously, it's up to them to choose what's best for them. But we wouldn't be doing our members any good if we weren't really offering everything that we feel could potentially help them with their financial goals, whether that be saving money, saving time, providing a convenience, or just adding value to their lives from a financial aspect. And that's why it's so important to be able to have competitive, not just service, but products as well, and be knowledgeable in those products and services that we offer.
It seems like, Therese, the team has been you mentioned the team a lot, like in terms of the people within the organization. So hiring has to be a huge part of, creating that great member experience.
Yeah, that leads us perfectly into our next slide, actually.
Okay, great. And yes, so hiring, and so it's always easier said than done. We need to hire the right people. I think, anybody that's involved in the hiring process will say that. But I do feel, and we do feel like a focus on the hiring process has been increasingly important. I think from a credit union and or a banking perspective in general, we do know that the pandemic kind of contributed to a shift in our members' behavior, which I think we all know kind of happened before the pandemic, but it just kind of, pushed it along a little bit further. And, whether it be, work from home and potential candidates having options of where they can, work at, or whether it be, hourly salaries, there is a possibility, and there has been, that positions are taking longer to fill. And I think this is really important to really discuss regarding the hiring, because the point of even mentioning that is that we cannot settle. I know we've all read data, on the cost of turnover, the cost of training. And so when you look at it from that perspective, the hiring process is truly an investment into the organization as a whole. And so I'm looking at, the slide right now, and, hire the right people. So of course the question is, well, how do you
Yep.
know? And every branch, is unique. We want them to kind of treat it, like their own franchise. And even though the organization has, an overall, expectation, our suggestion would be, maybe during the hiring process, we focus more on the service aspect of it. If that's what, we need to make sure that we're hiring the right people. Are we giving them, whether it be scenario type questions, are we asking them to share stories, about service from, whether it be a previous job or a previous experience? And as we're listening to their stories that they share, do the impact of their stories align with what our credit union expectations are in terms of service? And I think that's really important. And there are some things that can be identified, at hire or before hire. And then of course, the reality of it is, there are some things that we may not have been able to identify during the hiring process as well. And so that's when the training, the expectation, accountability kind of comes into play. So I think it does, when we say it starts with the hiring process, is what could we identify and what are we looking for? And, let's focus the hiring process on that.
So hiring people who are naturally, say, service oriented, from within, and then training on certain technical parts and product knowledge, that's something that I've heard other clients be really successful with, those focused on the experience. Is that something that you've seen at California Credit Union be successful?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, when I see that it says train on technical skills, and as we think about it more, I think one of the huge successes that California Credit Union has had during the hiring process is we do realize, we have a very robust and amazing learning and development. And not only do they focus on the technical piece of training, but they also focus on, leadership training, soft skills training, a whole array of it. And again, being in credit unions for 22 years and working for a variety of different training, learning and development professionals, I am very, very proud to work for this organization. And that is one of the main reasons. And when I say that, it's because every organization, does obviously have its culture. Every branch has its culture. And we need to be able to trust the managers, empowering. In fact, the title, of our webinar right now is Empowering Credit Unions Through Exceptional Member Experience. But we also need to empower our managers that are involved in the hiring. They know the culture, the fit within the organization as a whole, but they also know better than anybody else the needs of their specific branch, their members. And as I mentioned earlier, every branch is very unique in that process. So, to your question, Sean, absolutely very proud of it. And I do absolutely feel that California Credit Union has done a great job with that.
And let's talk about the empathy being such a key part of delivering that experience. So, we've talked about, in my view, empathy is one of the core pillars of a great experience for customers, members, guests, whoever your customer is. And great customer experience professionals have that in their kind of DNA. Tell me a little bit about how empathy fits into how you see the member experience and your team delivering it.
Yes. So empathy, when I think of this word and we hear it being used so much more and more, and of course, it's a feeling. It's really putting ourselves in the member's shoes, understanding how they're feeling, and whether it be a decision or a handling of a situation or a problem, or even proactively, it's really understanding. And the reality of it is there will be problems and issues that arise. But how we resolve it will gain us even more of a loyal member. When we're looking at data and statistics and we're looking at loyalty indexes, really it's, again, we will make a mistake, whether it be from a service perspective or a problem that arises and, the member is not happy with how we handled it. But that's the key, is whether it was employee caused an issue or how we handled a situation. The two examples that come to mind is I think of something that actually occurs very daily, right now, which a member has fraud on their debit card. I personally, twice in the last month, had fraud on my debit card. And so how did we handle it? Did we go straight to, here's a checklist of things that we need to do? We're going to block your card. We're going to order you a new card. We're going to review your charges. Or are we really going in depth and really using, the feelings part of it is, a lot of times members feel violated. They don't know, did the credit union error? Did they do something wrong? They're coming to us looking for answers. Are we, first of all, listening to them? Are we secondly reassuring them that, what, I know you just set up your mortgage payment to come out yesterday and now this money's out of your account. I'm going to assure you everything will be taken care of. We're going to handle it. You're going to get every cent back. Or again, the non-empathetic would be, okay, this is what we need to do, and they do it, and the member is on their way. And the second example would be, and unfortunately we are seeing this, more often, is, a death claim. A member or a non-member, comes in and maybe there was an account holder that passed away and they have a death certificate. Are we going straight into the 5 things that we need to do, the 6 things that we need to do, or are we really empathizing, listening to them, and then, reassuring them the accounts are handled? We're going to make everything, as great as possible. We've seen where members wait a year because they're still grieving. They're still grieving, and we need to empathize with that. And it's not something that we say you need to do this. We truly have to feel, for the situation that they're going through. And again, it will always go back to listening, as well. And then along those lines, would be the problem resolution, to it, and the follow-up process. So I know that was something that, you and I kind of discussed a lot, Sean, when we were talking about, empathy.
Definitely. And empathy is so important, and we're going to get to the problem resolution in a second, but I wanted to talk just another piece about your team at California Credit Union and how, those team members who use your own products are able to be so much more consultative with your members. And Alexandra, I think we have a slide that's next on that one. We call it like eat your own dog food. I really love your examples there about, your team who uses products are able to be so much more consultative to your members around those products.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that word. I know we used it earlier, Sean, but consultative. I mean, everything really does tie in together. And we are the biggest, advocates and, promoters of, staff in order to increase and retain our product knowledge, we have to use the products. I mean, there's one thing to say to a member, I understand how you feel, or, let me look something else. And then, or to have a testimonial, no problem, I'm going to help you with that. I recently enrolled in this, or I recently switched my, direct deposit with to this, or through my mobile app, or I recently got locked out of my password. And, those are the troubleshooting aspects, or a new feature. Members want the latest and greatest. We want to be able to promote the latest and greatest. And unless we're using it, it's really hard, or it would make it harder to be able to really speak to it by reading, maybe a training material, which again, isn't a bad, thing. However, using our products and services is the best way to be a promoter of it, but also to troubleshoot, issues should they arise, particularly because we do live, in a digital first, world when it comes to banking. So.
No doubt. And I'd imagine using your products makes your team more empathetic, based on our previous slide and conversation, to the members' kind of experience around that touch point, whatever it is.
Yeah. And, when I think of, the word, being empathetic, or, having empathy, really, it truly is putting ourselves into our member's shoes, but it's not all the time that we can deliver, the news that a member wants. For example, maybe they applied for a loan and the loan was declined, and, we reviewed, their credit report in detail, their income in detail. We've dissected their pay stub to see if we can do more income. But what options are we offering to the member? Maybe they wanted an unsecured credit card, but maybe they have $1,000 in their account, where we can start them off with a secured credit card. Or we partner with, for example, are we offering our debt management program through Green Path Financial Wellness, which we partner with. And again, we give options and the member chooses, but we are here for our members. And even if it's a no today, even if we can't help them today with what they specifically requested, number one, we're giving them options. Number two, it doesn't mean that we can't help them tomorrow or next month or next year, even. What we don't want is that experience, because we weren't able to give them, what they wanted during that encounter with us, or during that loan application process, for us to lose the relationship with them, whether it be a new member that we've just started a relationship with, or an existing member that has been with us for 30 years and doesn't understand why they were denied for a loan because they've been a member with us for so long. So that's why it's so important, to keep that journey with a member. A journey is not just they were approved for a loan and everything's great, but a journey is, we know they applied for a loan, we, know their financial situation, and we are going to stay in contact with them to assist them and help them with their financial journey.
And that links to almost any industry of being an encouraged partner of the members. So there's one of the most frustrating things is when you reach a vendor with a question and they just send you a link to a help page without any further description. A lot of people are enjoying the human connection aspect of support and are veering a little further away from the digital side of it.
Right.
They certainly appreciate it. Let's get to how you measure the relationship you have with your members and all the things, that, we have trust and consistency. I think given time, Alexandra, why don't we move to the next slide? Member feedback. So I want to talk about that, because that's the heart of PeopleMetrics Live usually. And, we talked about the relationship you had with members are so important. We talked about exceeding their expectations. We talked about personalizing the experience. We talked about having great people to deliver that experience and being consultative in their delivery. I'd love for you to spend a little time, Therese, talking about why member feedback is so important to California Credit Union, and just a little bit about kind of what you're doing with that feedback right now.
Yeah, so it is, I'm going to use this word again, but it is critical that we not only consistently listen to our members, but that we also act on it and timely. So even in that one sentence alone, as I'm listening to myself, 4 key words that I just said: consistency, listening, acting on, and being timely. And really the key element of the member experience is listening to our members and acting based on their feedback. We at California Credit Union, we believe in continuous improvement, and member feedback is invaluable to guiding our efforts. So for example, in using PeopleMetrics, We read all open-ended member comments. It doesn't matter if it's a 95% survey and higher, if they mark that they didn't encounter a problem. I love that there's the additional comment section. My managers love it, the branch staff love it, because there's a story there. There's a reason, and that's part of listening. Even though we can't quantify that in an overall score, based on if they marked, 1 through 10, we read all open member comments. And as I used the word timely earlier, one of the reasons why we love PeopleMetrics is because it's near real time. So it's near real time. It was the member's experience. We're asking them right away. We're reading the comments right away. We're seeing how they feel about us right away. And even though it's solicited feedback, it's honest feedback, because they will be honest, that's for sure. So yes. And so the reason why the open-ended comments are so important as well is a score might not necessarily tell you how they're truly feeling, but reading what they actually took the time to write in it may tell you, how they're feeling.
Definitely.
And so we feel it's very important not just to focus on the lower scoring, ones. Obviously, there may or may not be an area of opportunity. We look at it from an individual member perspective, but also from an organization perspective. Is there something more systemic? Is there something that should have been fixed? Is there something that we're hearing from a few different members that, we can change, whether it be, in the immediate, future, or something that we can work on and, be able to, feel good that, okay, we're listening to our members. This is what they want. This is what we're doing. 10 examples recently come to mind based on, and I won't talk about it here, but I can think of 10 examples. One, really, a communication just went out to all frontline staff yesterday about a digital enhancement that members were able to do themselves online, but that was a result of listening to members through surveys, through in branch, through calling our call center, through all channels and different touch points as well.
And Therese, just so our audience understands, California Credit Union isn't doing a survey, say, once a year or once every 2 years with their members. They're doing continuous surveys based on experience the members have with your branches and other touch points within California Credit Union. So you're getting a continuous feed of customer feedback that kind of builds upon itself, and you're continuously learning about customer member needs and experiences over time.
Yes, definitely. And it's interesting because, we used to do only transactional surveys. They went into a branch, they made a deposit, they did a withdrawal, very transactional, even though, as I said earlier, I don't think any member transaction is truly transactional. And then with PeopleMetrics, we had the ability to really, during a new account opening encounter or through a loan funding encounter, really ask them, how their experience was. In addition, through a different channel, through our virtual branch, we were able to really survey the members that made the decision to use an online channel or a phone channel to take care of their lending needs or lending questions as well. So I think that was truly important. California Credit Union also, we actually go more in depth because this is how important it is for us to listen to our members and to act upon it. We do relationship surveys where we ask very in-depth questions, and it's more relationship oriented, very, very in-depth, but we get so much good information. Sometimes, information that we not necessarily want to hear. However, there's always good to it. And the good is that we are listening to members. We contact our members right away, regardless of the survey type, whether they are not satisfied on a relationship survey or they are not satisfied on a transactional survey. And I think that's what really sets us apart as far as, how we're able to act upon it. And going back to, that timeliness is so important. If they complained or voiced their opinion, about something, a year ago and it wasn't acted upon. And again, it's the follow-up. It's just staying in communication with our members. As I mentioned, they're our family, and we might not be able to make a change immediately, but knowing that we're listening or we're working on something, I think is extremely important.
Totally.
And we definitely keep that as our focus.
So yeah, so just so we have nomenclature down, relationship surveys to the audience. These are surveys that, like Therese said, are in depth. They don't happen all the time. They happen periodically. You really want to get a deep dive into the relationship and every experience the member had or might have in the future. Transactional surveys are after a specific touch point where you, Therese, you and your team, you get that result, practically immediately after that transaction. And if there is a problem with that member, you have the opportunity to follow up and resolve it in a timely manner.
Yes, absolutely. And that's so important because, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes we don't get a second opportunity. We do have members that leave silently. These are members that are giving us an opportunity to either make a change or listen or, communicate with them. And, we do live, as they mentioned, in an instantaneous world. So the timeliness, even responding and listening, shows how much we care. Members expect and deserve the timely resolution, and we have a service level agreement to our members.
Right.
We have an entire member experience playbook in which we live, we breathe by it, and that's going back to the slide on consistency. That's why it's so important, is we do an elevated and good standard that we want our members to have. And so that's solicited feedback, as we're talking about transactional survey and even relationship surveys. We do it twice a year.
Yep.
But then there's unsolicited feedback available to the world,
Yes.
now with social media and Yelp. And
Wow.
a lot of times consumers in general are making decisions based on what they read on Yelp, which it's being used for its purposes intended. But it still does go back to, okay, did we mess up? Did we not provide the experience that we had, trained and wished, our employees to provide? Was it a product offering? Was it a service offering? What was it? But let's reach out. Let's contact them. Let's see what we can do. And, we live and breathe by voice of the member discipline. And, sometimes we call, a member, or we listen to an interaction, and we might not know right away what the best way to resolve that specific situation was. There might have been research that needs to be involved, and that's okay. But with voice of the member discipline, the bigger picture understanding of that is that we do need to listen, we do need to respond, and we truly do need to resolve it to how the member expects it to, not to how we, as whether it be a person or a branch or an organization, thinks that it should be handled. Then again, follow up. We have to follow up with our members when they do allow us the opportunity to listen to their concern.
When you do follow up and are proactive about it, and when we say an alert, that means an email is going to Therese saying that a member had a problem in their most recent experience, or they had a score that's lower than a certain threshold. So she knows there's a problem. When she or her team follows up on that, they can then really influence the unsolicited feedback, right? So unsolicited feedback is when people go onto social media sites and provide reviews of their experience at different branches. And if you get them before they do that, they may actually create a positive review based on your proactive nature of solving their issue. And that's how these things kind of get connected.
And that's what it is. They definitely are connected, Sean.
Perfect. All right, Alexandra, this is sort of related, but I thought it was important enough to have a minute on. So many people are outsourcing certain interactions with members or across industries. This isn't unique to credit unions, right? But when members have experiences with one of your vendors, and it's still your responsibility and it's your CX, right? It's the experience that your members have, and you're responsible for it. And I think that's just an important point to make. It's not like, oh, that's not my problem, right? The member has an experience that isn't to expectation. It indeed is yours. If you could just talk about that for a minute, even if it's delivered by a vendor.
Yeah, no, definitely. And to kind of take it back a little bit, and that's why the selection of vendors, is crucial as well. We do our due diligence. We usually have a variety that we choose from, and choosing a vendor whose member focus really aligns with ours, knowing what their service level agreement is to us, so then we can then deliver a service level agreement, to our members, and really being able to hold vendors accountable, of course,
Yeah.
behind the scenes. We never want to do anything member facing, because then that would be a we against them, and we are just very anti that, whether it be collaboration between departments or with a vendor. But we really do, this is so important when we're working with vendors, is because we do need to look at the situation or the issue from our members' eyes. And we know many times vendors cause the errors, whether it be, a service issue. An example would be, for example, our card fraud monitoring service. Was the representative rude? Did they give the member the wrong information, saying that, they can come into our branch and get a new debit card right away? Whatever the case is, whether it be a service issue or a knowledge issue, it doesn't matter. The member is looking to us. They're a credit union. They, expect and deserve a resolution. So the focus, even if it wasn't a quote unquote California credit union error, it's so important for the focus to be on the resolution. We can work with the vendor later, whether it be, or later meaning timely, but whether it be from a training or a reminding perspective, or, going back to our service level agreement and why that's so important with our vendor as well. Why did this happen? But from a member perspective, we're not, going to say, well, I'm sorry, the vendor that we use for our card fraud monitoring gave you the wrong information. I'm sorry that they're rude. They're not our employee. We're certainly not going to go that route. That's definitely not what we're about. We made the choice, and the focus is resolving it and making sure that our members whole and that our members happy.
It's
And
just
it links.
it's a good lesson to learn. If you're in your customer journey, it doesn't, or member journey, they don't care who's delivering that part of the journey.
Yeah, and it really all links back to that empathy. You need to handle transactions, whether they're good or bad, with an empathetic view. And like Sean, you mentioned, this isn't just specific to credit unions; it's across all industries.
Definitely.
And that's how the member sees it too. Again, they're not comparing us just to, they may not even bank elsewhere, but they're measuring us on, their first impression, on our efficiency, if there was a problem, on our problem resolution, if there needed to be follow-up on, did we follow up? And so that's what we're being compared to. And really in any sort of industry outside of a bank or credit union that provides a service, those are some major accountabilities that we are being measured against, or compared against, I should say.
Yeah, I tell folks all the time, Therese, that no matter what industry you're in, your customers are probably using Amazon. So they've been trained to understand certain things. Not that they're perfect, obviously, but they've created like an expectation of certain service levels and experience levels that people just expect. And you're right. It's not in a vacuum. People have experiences everywhere, and word of mouth ultimately is everything, right? So when they have great experiences with your credit union, that's probably one of the biggest sources of new members, I'd imagine, right? They tell other people about it and they join.
We hear it every day. We ask them, it comes up in, conversation, or they just tell us, my mom referred me to you, my coworker referred me to you, my brother banks with you and loves you. And, I know a lot of industries use that the biggest compliment is a referral, but we do highly depend on friend and family referrals. But it goes back to exactly that. Our members are our family. And I said that earlier. And I mean that. And we want their friends and family to become a part of our family. We truly believe in that. And they advertise for us. They're our biggest, promoters of, they use our products, they use our services, they know what service we provide. They've obviously received a consistent service that they deserve and that they've experienced, which prompted them to want to, be able to refer their friends and family so that they can have the same experience as well. And
Right.
honestly, that is our ultimate goal, is exactly that.
And this is the reason why Net Promoter Scores become so popular in a lot of different survey programs. So, because it is a referral question and a relationship question. Okay, Alexander, what else do we have? Sometimes we talk about this, and we can end with this, is, sometimes when you think about these programs, it's like, okay, we get these alerts around a poor experience, right? You got to follow up. We talked about that. It's so important to do that. But you're probably getting what? 95 out of every 100 surveys being really positive for you, if not more. And it's important to realize that that's the case too, and recognizing members who are doing a great job, and understanding the positive of the feedback is extremely important also, isn't it?
Yes, no, definitely. And so this is the fun part. We save the fun part for last, like being able to talk to the members that love us.
Yeah.
We love them. And just to kind of, be able to quantify it and put numbers on it, we've surveyed over 90,000 members since we went, live with PeopleMetrics, and just the tenfold response rate that we've been getting. But the satisfaction rate is 96.6%, which is obvious. But the results of those numbers are, record-breaking loan performance, member growth. We now have over 170,000 members. So those are the results of our member experience, and I don't even want to say initiative, that's a wrong word, but focus. And so it is hugely important to, our business and what we do. And that's how we get the results that we do. And then we have systems that'll tell us, how long it's been a member. Well, what are we doing with that, data? What are we doing with that information that we're being provided? I mean, gosh, I love when I see members that have been members with us longer than I've been born, and that's amazing. And, we do thank them. And, I know we work in a competitive environment where some institutions are, offering, you've been with us for 25 years, you get 25 basis points off. And, could we go that route? Absolutely. We can, but this is our daily, what we live and breathe, as, I mentioned. And I love calling members when obviously at my level, things escalate to me, if the branch, which is very, very, very rare, is not able to handle it. But I call members when I read their comments. I mean, I got a phone call on Friday, and the branch manager didn't even know. And it was a compliment on the branch manager that helped with a trust account. It was very difficult. Another institution turned the member away. And when I called this branch manager to say thank you, he was like, well, I do this all the time. What member is this? Like, we're going to take care of our members. So I loved it. And then I, called the member, thanked her for her feedback. And she was just thrilled, and is now bringing every single thing over that she has. And she's an elderly member. And so just hearing that directly from not only the member, but from, my branches itself, it just really solidifies that we are doing what our purpose is to do in serving our members.
Yeah, it's a great way to wrap up that, member feedback. You're going to get all sorts of flavors of it. There's going to be a little bit of negative that you should look at as a gift, because you can resolve those issues and save the member and even make them more loyal. And you have all this positive feedback that a lot of companies, don't do much with because they don't feel like they need to, but it's a really big opportunity to first thank employees who are delivering those experiences and giving them access to that information, and just having them see, wow, my efforts are really resulting in people being delighted. As well as, you have all these promoters out there, and there's all sorts of opportunities to expand their business and have them refer new members to you and everything else. So there's all sorts of benefits to having a member feedback program, and you're realizing so many of them. And we're just, we're thrilled to have the partnership, Therese.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today. Thank you both for joining and sharing your expertise. This has been a wonderful session.